Hello, YouTubers. Welcome back to Yorkshire Media. I am Mark, your host, your presenters, whatever you want us to be. And yes, I am.
Again, you've forgotten me. I'm Jen. I'm with the numpty.
Yes, we are cheaper, better than the BBC. Sorry about that, yeah. This is the numpty Jen.
No. You can tell by the way he done the introduction that he's the numpty.
No, I'm
okay?
not the numpty. She's the numpty.
Thumbs up for the numpty.
Really? Thumbs up for the female numpty. Only females can be numpties, just remember that. Right.
Definitely not.
So what have I got for you today? Well, this is Mark and Jen's talk, which was requested by subscribers, basically, that we do more of this. So this is what I'm doing today. So today's Mark and Jen's talk, the day subject is Fire in the Sky, a 1975 UFO abduction. So it is a film as well as a documentary, as well as a book. So you're going to find out what it is. So, Fire in the Sky is a 1983 film based on the 1975 Travis Walton incident, a real-life alleged UFO abduction. The film depicts a group of loggers in the woods. So if we go so Fire in the Sky is a 1993 American science fiction drama film directed by Robert Lieberman and adapted by Tracy Traum. It's based on Travis Walton's book, The Walton Experience, which describes an extraterrestrial abduction. Yeah, an alien abduction, basically. The film stars D.B. Sweeney as Walton and Robert Patrick as his best friend, and future brother-in-law Mike Rogers, James Garner, Craig Sheffer, Scott MacDonald, and Henry Thomas, and Peter Burr also star. Fire in the Sky grossed 19.9 million domestically, and that's the plot. On November the 5th, 1975, in Snowflake, Arizona, logger Travis Walton and his co-workers Mike Rogers and Alan Dallas and David Wainwright and Greg Hayes and Bobby Gugdill head to work in the White Mountains. Driving back towards town that night, the loggers see unearthly light in the distance through the tree line. Investigating, they encounter an unidentified flying object. Curious, Walton gets out of the truck to examine closer, only for the hovering object to react and strike him with a bright beam of light, hurling him in several feet backwards. Fearing Walton has been killed, the terrified loggers escape from the scene. Rogers decides to go back to spot to retrieve Walton, but he is nowhere to be found. Returning to town, report the incident. The loggers are met with scepticism by investigator Sheriff Blake Davis and Lieutenant Frank Waters. Waters, realising that there was a great deal of tension between Dallas and Walton, and that the boorish Dallas has a criminal record, suspect foul play. Believe that quickly spreads to the rest of the town, leaving the loggers as social outcasts. After a large search party turns up, no sign of Walton, the loggers are offered the chance to take a lie detector test. Though Dallas is initially hesitant, the loggers ultimately take the test in the hopes of proving their innocence. However, Walton declares that the tests were inconclusive and that they will have to return the next day to retake it. Rogers is outraged and he angrily declines. The other loggers follow in suit. Test and administrator reveals to Waters and Davis that, with the exception of Dallas, whose test results were inconclusive, the loggers seem to be telling the truth. 5 days later, Rogers receives a call from someone claiming to be Walton. He is found at Eber gas station, alive but naked, dehydrated and severely traumatised. A ufologist questions Walton, but this is thrown out and Walton is taken to hospital. Rogers visits Walton while in the emergency room, ends up telling Walton they left him after he was struck by a light but came back to get him. Walton appears enraged at being left behind and turns away from Rogers, who blames the whole incident in Walton for getting out of the truck during a welcome home party. Walton suffers from mental breakdown and flashback of the abduction by the extraterrestrials. In his flashback, he awakens inside slimy cocoon breaking out of its membrane, and bewildered Walters finds himself adrift in a zero-gravity alien environment inside a cylindrical enclosure. Those walls contain other similar cocoons struggling in the low gravity. Accidentally breaches a nearby cocoon in order to discover that it contains decomposing human remains. Exploring further, he drifts towards a neighbouring area, seeing several humanoid figures below him, drifting uncontrollably towards them, and he investigates, surmising that the immobile figures are in fact spacesuits, one of which is still occupied by an extra creature. Walton attempts to escape, but apprehended by two aliens who drag him down corridors full of terrestrial detritus such as shoes and keys before arriving in an examination chamber. The aliens hold the struggling Walton to platform in the centre of the chamber, stripping him of his clothes and covering him with elastic material that completely retains him in, despite Walton's terrified screams. The aliens clinically subject him to a torturous experiment in which a gladiatinous substance is forced into the mouth and tube is inserted down his throat. His jaw is locked open and device strapped into his neck. Overhead equipment then begins lowering towards him as a needle-like ocular probe extends towards his exposed eye. Walton suddenly reawakens from his flashback in a doctor's office. While interviewing Walton, Lieutenant Waters expressed his doubts about the abduction, dismissing it as a hoax. He notes Walton's newfound celebrity because of his tabloid attempts to profit from his tale, believing that he has faked the abduction to become a celebrity. However, with the investigation closed, Waters is forced to abandon his pursuit and leaves town. 2.5 years later, Walton visits Rogers, now a hermit, and the two reconcile the closing titles and informed that the 1993 Walter Rogers and Dallas were resubmitted to additional polygraph examination, which they passed, corroborating their innocence. So that's their innocence. So that's Fire in the Sky. It was a film. It did become a film. This is where I picked it up from. This, in 1993, it's definitely a film. And that. So, yeah, 1993, film based in 1975 by Travis Walton. So what do you think?
Well,
I know what I think.
I've never heard of the story.
No,
but
I've done the research on it. So what do you think?
It could not. It might not have been UFO abduction.
So how do you account for his flashbacks?
Mental health. He might have had a problem with his mental health. He might have been seeing things in his head that weren't actually happening. And he actually believes that they are real because of his mental health.
Well, I'll tell you now. Was the first reported abduction in 1975 in America. It's the very first abduction. Now, me for Trevor Walters, I think he's telling the truth. I don't think he's lying. I think they did come across something. He got out and got shot, struck by light. I mean, everyone saw it, and that. And for me, for Travis Walton to go into detail about being abducted and that and being put on an examination table, you put that down to mental health.
It might be. You just don't know.
Well, I'm experienced in flashbacks, as you know, through a car accident. So is that my mental health?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, my flashbacks were real. So his flashbacks, they must have been real.
But they might not have been UFO related.
Could be.
Someone might have abducted him, but not off this planet, like on this planet, and kept him in a structure somewhere.
Naked.
Yeah.
Because he turned up naked in a petrol station.
They might have kept him somewhere and he might have been drugged.
So, do you think he deliberately faked it, hoaxed it, to get famous? Because I don't think he did.
I don't. Why would someone do that to get famous? Like,
Well, you heard what I read out and that. That's all the research you've done. It's not from any article and that. That's the research they've done. You know, they blame him. Oh, he's hoaxed it to get into celebrity status. So do you think yes or no?
why would you do something like that just to get?
Well, you wouldn't, would you?
status?
I mean, I wouldn't. You just wouldn't, would you? You know what I mean?
No, I think someone's abducted him maybe in this country then, kept him somewhere in the middle of nowhere maybe.
Well, he's out in Snowflake Mountains, White Mountains. So yeah, it could have been, you know, shot with some kind of white light. What shot him and threw him back?
That could have been like some sort of aircraft that's
Yeah, it could have
not even been made yet, you know? Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Experimental aircraft, experimental weapons, and things like that. So that's what you think.
could be
No, but
that. And also with him being kept somewhere.
Yeah.
And if he was drugged, that could be the hallucinations of what these people look like, that they look like aliens and that when they've actually...
So now you're getting down to it. So do you think government have done the experiments on him? His own government? Like CIA and things like that?
Honestly don't know. It could be anyone, couldn't it?
Because
They might not have done experiments, but with him being, if he was on drugs, the hallucinations could make him think that he'd been experimented on. And seeing things that weren't there.
Well, every time this comes up and every time people have discussed it, they've never gone down that route that his own government, they could have done this to him. You know, experimented on him and things like that. There is a lot of people out there who think that. You know what I mean? Going back to a famous TV series, The X-Files, they did do a part of that, because that's the part of The X-Files what's true and things like that. Because back in the 60s, the American government, our government, did experiments on human beings and that with LSD and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, they did all sorts of things. So do you think that's what could have happened here?
Could possibly. And like I said, if he was drugged, he could have hallucinated a lot of things.
Well, he could have done quite
So
easily.
that's where the dreams could be coming from the drugs, basically. Especially if it was one of them drugs that do make you hallucinate.
Makes it, to me, more believable, because he can go into detail about like cylindrical and things like that. So...
And what he thought looked like aliens could have just been a human being.
Well, that happened in
In a suit or
1975.
something.
It's never been solved. It's never been proven otherwise. You know what I mean? And he's convinced, it's Trevor Walton. He's convinced, because read the book, he's convinced, because at the end of the film, he tells his best mate, he looks up at the sky, he says, they're up there. And that's what he believes.
And like you said, he was trying to escape. Now, how would he have escaped if he was up there and not falling out of the sky, basically?
Well, Walton doesn't explain that. He just had that urge to get out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's what you would do. You would try and escape.
Oh, yeah, but like I said, like if he was supposedly up there with them, he wouldn't have been able to get down to Earth.
You know what I mean? All he knows is he's been shot and then took him.
Mm.
You wouldn't really know if you were up there or not.
Because the aliens wouldn't have, if they were there, if it was happening, wouldn't have kept him on Earth to do all that.
But there is another one. Is how come he had breathable oxygen in a spaceship? I don't think you would.
No, because if they come from a different planet, they might have a different.
They'd have to keep you unconscious to make sure that you survive.
They might have a different technique for breathing because they might not even breathe on our oxygen. We don't know.
Well, I don't think they do. I think it's completely different. So, you know, this is the bits what people don't really go into. You know, he's on he's running around a spaceship apparently, but he's breathing oxygen to you too. That doesn't add up to me.
And if there was aliens and spaceships, what's to say from different planets they might not have oxygen on there to breathe?
True. They could be breathing opposite to what we
Exactly.
breathe.
We've got oxygen on this planet because of how we are. But if you think of all the other planets and their distance from the sun and everything, what makes them livable planets? Might be a totally different system to ours.
Yeah, it's like going back into 1970s UFO. They breathed liquid through their on their helmets. They had liquid breathing. Deep sea divers breathe liquid, by the way.
So it's all different.
It's completely different. It's the way it goes. So, where would you comfortably want to leave it? Where would you want to comfortably end it?
What, this?
Fire in the Sky. Did you end it as though yes, he's been abducted, or no, he hasn't?
The possibility of him being abducted, yes, but not by what he thinks.
Right. So there you go, folks. That's Fire in the Sky.
What about you?
It all happened in 1975. Me, I don't know. I think he has been abducted, but
By who?
we don't know, do we? I seen the film. It were a very clever made film of that Fire in the Sky. If you haven't seen it, get it. But there you go. That happened in 1975 in White Mountain, Snowflake Mountains, over in America, and that. Not to be taken lightly, because if this turns out to be a proper abduction by aliens, UFOs, and things like that, it's the very first one.
And why hasn't it happened again?
It has. There's been several reports of it happening again.
What, in the same place?
I don't know if it's the same place. I couldn't find anything like that. But there has been other abductions in part of America, similar to this. Right then. So, I'm going to leave it there. There you go. UFOs, Fire in the Sky. How did you like it? I hope you liked it. And we'll catch you on the next one. So, if you haven't bored you today, please give us a thumbs up. Please like. Please subscribe if you do, hit the bell icon and all that will let you know when I'm uploading another video. It's also free to subscribe to JenV72 on Yorkshire Media One. More the merrier. Let's get Jen up to 500 subscribers and let's get me up to 1100. Also, please share the video with your friends and your family on other social media like X, Facebook, Instagram, and use the comment section below and let me know what you think to this video and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye. Good. Bye for
Bye,
now.
Nancy.
Bye, Num.